Emeka lived in a small village surrounded by green fields and tall trees. He was a kind man, always ready to help anyone in need. People in the village knew him as someone gentle and hardworking. Every morning he would wake up early when the sun had just begun to rise. The birds would sing softly, and the air would feel fresh with dew. Emeka liked these mornings. He liked to walk slowly to his small farm, feeling the soft earth under his feet. He would tend to his crops carefully, making sure each plant had enough water and sunlight. Sometimes when he looked at his farm he felt proud. It was small but it fed his family and that made him happy. Emeka was not just hardworking, he was a man with a big heart. He loved his wife, Zola, more than anything in the world. Zola was a gentle and kind woman. She had a soft smile that could make anyone feel warm. She loved Emeka with all her heart and always tried to help him in everything he did. Even when Emeka was tired after working on the farm, Zola would bring him a cup of tea or sit with him under the shade of a big tree, just to talk and make him feel relaxed. They were a happy couple. Everyone who saw them together knew that they cared deeply for each other. Zola also helped Emeka with small things in the village. She would sometimes go to the market to sell fruits or vegetables from their farm. She always spoke kindly to people and made friends easily. She would laugh with children, listen to the elders' stories, and always smile at strangers. Emeka admired her for this. He often thought that he had the best wife in the world. Despite their happiness, life in the village was not always easy. Emeka's brothers, Obi and Tay, lived nearby. Obi was the older brother, strong and loud, with a quick temper. Tay, the younger one, was clever but often jealous of Emeka. They did not understand Emeka's love for Zola. They thought he cared too much about his wife. Whenever they saw Emeka helping Zola or spending time with her, they would tease him. "Why do you worry so much about her?" Obi would ask. "She is fine. Let her do her own work," Tay would add, laughing. Emeka never answered their teasing with anger. He only smiled and continued doing what he thought was right. He believed that love was about caring, helping, and being there for each other. He did not care if his brothers laughed at him. He knew that Zola needed him and that was all that mattered. Sometimes he wished his brothers would understand, but he did not force them. He only hoped that one day they would see the happiness that comes from caring for someone deeply. Every evening, Emeka and Zola would sit together outside their small house. The sky would turn orange and pink as the sun went down. The birds would sing their last songs of the day, and the air would feel cool and calm. Emeka would tell Zola about his day on the farm, and she would tell him about her day in the village. Sometimes they would laugh and sometimes they would sit quietly, holding hands. These moments were very special to them. They were simple but full of love. Even in the small things, Emeka showed his care. He would notice if Zola looked tired and would ask her to rest. He would carry water for her or help her with heavy baskets. Zola noticed all of this and felt happy. She knew that Emeka loved her not just with words but with actions. This made their bond stronger every day. The village people often talked about Emeka and Zola. Some admired them, some wondered how they were so close, and some, like Obi and Tay, could not understand it. They did not see that happiness did not always come from wealth or power. For Emeka and Zola, happiness came from small acts of love, care, and being together. The brothers could not see this. They thought love was easy, something that did not need effort. But Emeka knew it was not. True love needed patience, understanding, and small sacrifices every day. One day, Obi and Tay were sitting under a tree watching Emeka work on his farm. They saw him carefully watering the plants and then running to help Zola carry a basket of vegetables. Obi shook his head. "Look at him. Always worried about Zola?" he said. Tay laughed. "Yes, he is too soft. I do not understand why he does so much for her." But Emeka did not hear them. He only saw Zola smile at him as she placed the basket down. That smile made him forget the teasing and the hard work. For him, her happiness was more important than anyone's opinion. He believed that the love they shared was worth every effort. Zola often told her friends about Emeka. She said he was the most caring husband anyone could have. She did not care about what others thought. All that mattered to her was that they were together, helping each other, loving each other, and living their lives with respect and kindness. Emeka's love was quiet but strong. He did not need to show it to the world. He showed it through his actions every day. Whether it was working on the farm, helping Zola in the house, or just being there to listen, he proved his love constantly. People might not notice at first, but those who paid attention could see the depth of his heart. Sometimes at night, Emeka would lie awake and think about Zola. He thought about how lucky he was to have her, and how much he wanted to keep her safe and happy. He knew life could be difficult and there might be challenges ahead. But he believed that as long as they were together, they could face anything. His brothers might never understand, but that did not matter. His world was small and Zola was at the center of it. Even on ordinary days, small moments made Emeka and Zola happy. They would walk together to the river, pick fruits from the trees, or sit by the fire in the evening talking and laughing. They shared dreams, hopes, and even small worries. They were a team always supporting each other. Obi and Tay, however, continued to tease Emeka. They laughed at him when he spent hours helping Zola in the garden or preparing a meal. But Emeka only smiled politely. He knew that teasing came from misunderstanding, not malice. He did not let their words hurt him. His love for Zola was stronger than anything anyone could say. Zola noticed how calm and patient Emeka was even with the teasing. She admired him more because of it. She knew that his love was not only for her but also for doing what was right. Emeka had a pure heart and that made their bond even stronger. As the days passed, the bond between Emeka and Zola grew deeper. Their love was not loud or showy, but it was steady, warm, and unshakable. Each small act of care, each gentle word, and each shared smile built a foundation stronger than anything money or power could create. Even the village children liked to be around them. They saw Emeka's kindness, his patience, and the love between him and Zola. Sometimes, Emeka would tell them stories, teach them small lessons about life, and show them the importance of caring for each other. Zola would smile and encourage the children too. Together, they became examples of love, care, and respect in the village. And though Obi and Tay still teased him, Emeka never let it affect his happiness. He knew that the world could be loud and sometimes unkind, but as long as he had Zola by his side, he was at peace. Their life was simple, full of small joys, hard work, and endless care for one another. And that made it perfect. One bright morning, Zola woke up feeling unusually weak. Her head ached, her body felt heavy, and even the simplest tasks seemed impossible. Emeka noticed immediately. He had been preparing the morning meal when he saw her struggle to stand. His heart ached at the sight. "Zola, are you feeling all right?" he asked, concern evident in his voice. She shook her head slowly, trying to smile, but it was faint. Emeka gently helped her sit on the small wooden chair near the window. He fetched a bowl of warm water and washed her face, noticing how pale she had become. Even the soft sunlight streaming through the window did not make her look alive. Something was wrong and Emeka could feel it deep inside. He had always known when Zola was unhappy or unwell, but this time it felt serious. He decided to take her to the small clinic at the edge of the village. The journey was short, but it felt long because Emeka carried her gently in his arms. The villagers watched them pass, whispering to each other. Everyone in the village knew that Emeka cared deeply for Zola. Some smiled, thinking about how devoted he was, while others shook their heads, not understanding such dedication. At the clinic, the doctor examined Zola carefully. After a long silence, he said, "Emeka, Zola's condition is serious. She needs special treatment that we cannot provide here. The hospital is far from the village and it will take money and time." Emeka felt his chest tighten. He had known something was wrong, but hearing it from the doctor made it real. Zola's eyes met his, filled with trust, and he felt a wave of determination wash over him. He looked at the doctor and asked quietly, "How soon does she need to go?" The doctor replied, "As soon as possible. Delay could make things worse." Emeka nodded silently, holding Zola's hand. He did not know where he would get the money, how he would arrange the journey, or how he would face the challenges ahead, but he knew one thing: he could not leave her suffering. As Emeka thought about the plan, his brothers Obi and Tay happened to visit him at the clinic. They saw him talking to the doctor and noticed the worried look on his face. Obi laughed first. "Why worry so much, Emeka? She is fine. People get sick sometimes. Let her manage." Tay joined in, smirking, "Yes, brother, stop being soft. You spend all your time thinking about her. It is too much." Emeka did not respond to their teasing. He only looked at them calmly, his eyes filled with quiet resolve. He knew they did not understand. To them, caring deeply for someone was strange. But Emeka's heart was different. He loved Zola and no words of mockery could change that. After the brothers left, Emeka turned his attention fully to Zola. He spoke to her gently, "Do not worry, Zola. I will take care of you. We will find a way and I promise you will get the best treatment." Zola tried to smile, but tears welled up in her eyes. She had always known Emeka loved her, but seeing him take charge so calmly yet so determinedly made her heart swell with gratitude and affection. Emeka began to plan the journey. The nearest hospital was far from the village, and he would need money for travel, treatment, and living expenses while away. He thought of his small savings first. They were not much, but they could cover part of the cost. He also considered selling some of his farm produce in advance. Even though it would mean hard work, he did not hesitate. For Zola's life, nothing was too difficult. Days passed as Emeka worked tirelessly. Early in the morning he tended the farm, collecting fruits, vegetables and grains. He worked under the hot sun, lifting heavy baskets and caring for each plant as if it were alive. At the same time he nursed Zola at home, making sure she had food, medicine and comfort. He rarely slept. Every night he would sit beside her bed, holding her hand, talking softly and encouraging her to stay strong. The villagers noticed Emeka's efforts. Some came to help in small ways, offering vegetables, fruits or just kind words. But many could not understand why one man would sacrifice so much for another. Obi and Tay continued to tease from a distance. "Look at him," Obi said to a friend, pointing at Emeka carrying water for Zola. "Why does he do so much? He is wasting his time." Tay laughed, shaking his head. "He has no sense. Life is hard and he is making it harder for himself." But Emeka ignored them. Their laughter and comments did not matter. What mattered was Zola's life and her well-being. Each day he saw her smile, even faintly, gave him strength. He reminded himself that love required effort, patience and sacrifice. While others mocked, he quietly carried on, driven by his devotion. One morning, Emeka realized he would need to sell something valuable to cover the hospital expenses. He looked around their small home, thinking about what he could part with. The little savings were not enough. Then he noticed the old cow in the corner of the yard. It had been with him for many years, helping in the farm and providing milk for the family. Emeka felt a pang in his heart, but he knew it had to be done. "Zola," he said gently, "I will sell the cow to pay for your treatment. It will be enough for the journey and the hospital." Zola's eyes widened in surprise. She tried to stop him. "No, Emeka. We can find another way. Don't sell it. It is yours and it has been with you for so long." But Emeka shook his head softly. "Zola, this is the only way. I cannot let you suffer. I love you more than anything and I will do whatever it takes. This is for you." Zola's tears fell freely. She had always known Emeka loved her, but this act, this willingness to give up something so dear for her, touched her deeply. She held his hand and whispered, "Thank you, Emeka. I am so lucky to have you." Emeka smiled, though his heart felt heavy. Love, he knew, sometimes meant sacrifice. The brothers heard about the decision to sell the cow and could not believe it. "He is really doing it," Obi exclaimed, shaking his head. "I thought he would never go that far. He is wasting everything on her." Tay laughed nervously. "Yes, who would do such a thing? I still cannot understand him." But Emeka did not care. Their shock and disbelief did not matter. What mattered was saving Zola, helping her live and keeping her safe. Finally, the day came to start the journey. Emeka carefully packed their belongings, keeping only what was necessary. He helped Zola onto a small cart, and together they set out of the village, leaving behind the familiar fields and houses. The journey would be long and it would not be easy, but Emeka faced it with determination. He walked beside the cart, guiding it carefully, ensuring Zola was comfortable at every step. Along the way he met challenges. The roads were rough, the sun was hot and sometimes the cart would get stuck in mud. Yet Emeka never complained. He lifted the cart, pushed it or found another way to move forward. Every step, every effort, was a testament to his love for Zola. She watched him with admiration and gratitude, knowing that she could never repay such devotion, only hoped to live fully and healthily because of it. The journey also showed the contrast between Emeka and his brothers. While Obi and Tay had mocked him for caring so deeply, Emeka's actions revealed his true character: brave, patient, and completely devoted. In quiet moments, Zola would whisper to him, "You are my strength, Emeka. I do not know what I would do without you." And he would reply simply, "As long as I have you, nothing else matters." Even at night, under the stars, Emeka's care did not stop. He would make small fires to keep them warm, cook simple meals, and ensure Zola had enough water. The world seemed vast and difficult, but with love guiding his actions, Emeka turned every obstacle into a step closer to saving her. Through all the hardships, one thing remained clear: Emeka's devotion was unshakable. No teasing, no laughter, no challenge could make him abandon Zola. His love had transformed from gentle care into unwavering determination. The journey was not just about reaching the hospital, it was about showing that true love means sacrifice, effort, and courage, even when others fail to understand. Obi and Tay remained behind in the village, watching from afar, still shocked at Emeka's actions. They could not grasp the depth of his heart. They had laughed and mocked, but now even they felt a small pang of respect, though neither would admit it. True courage, they realized, sometimes comes quietly, in actions that are noticed only by those who matter most. When the hospital finally came into view, Emeka felt a surge of relief. The hardest part of the journey was over, but the real challenge, Zola's treatment, was about to begin. Yet he was ready. He had given everything he could, sacrificed what he had, and faced countless difficulties. He would not stop now. Love had brought him this far, and it would carry him all the way. Zola held his hand tightly as they entered the hospital. Her eyes reflected gratitude, admiration, and deep love. Emeka smiled gently, patting her hand. "We are here, Zola. You will be fine now. Trust me." She nodded, feeling safer than ever. His devotion, his courage, and his sacrifice had already saved her heart, even before the doctors began their work. And as the hospital doors closed behind them, Emeka felt a quiet pride. He knew the journey ahead would be long and difficult, but he also knew one simple truth: when love is strong, no challenge is too great, no obstacle too hard, and no sacrifice too big. His brothers might never understand, but he did not care. Zola's life, her happiness, and their love were all that mattered. Emeka stood outside his small house one morning, staring at the farm that had been in his family for years. It was not a large farm, but it had provided for him and Zola for a long time. Now, though, it was time to let go. He knew that selling it was the only way to pay for Zola's treatment. His heart felt heavy at the thought of leaving behind the land he had cared for, the soil he had tilled, and the plants he had nurtured with his own hands. Yet he did not hesitate. Zola's life mattered more than anything else in the world. He called the local buyers and sold the farm at a fair price. It took hours of negotiation, but Emeka's determination never wavered. He sold his tools, the small cart he had used for years, and even some personal belongings he had cherished. Each item sold felt like a small loss, but in his heart he knew it was a gain, a step closer to saving Zola. As he handed over the last piece of his property, he paused for a moment, looking at the land one final time. Memories of planting seeds, harvesting crops, and laughing with Zola among the fields flooded his mind. A quiet sadness filled him, but he quickly pushed it aside. There was no time for sorrow now, action was needed. With the money in hand, Emeka began preparing for the long journey ahead. The hospital that could provide the care Zola needed was far from the village. Roads were rough and the journey would take days, but Emeka's resolve was firm. He packed only the essentials: clothes for Zola, basic food, water, and a few medicines the local doctor had prescribed. He ensured Zola was as comfortable as possible, even on such a difficult trip. The first day of travel was exhausting. Emeka walked beside a small cart carrying Zola, guiding it carefully over uneven paths. The sun burned overhead and the dust from the road clung to their clothes. Zola felt weak, and Emeka noticed every sigh, every shiver, and every wince. Each one made his heart ache, but he never stopped. He adjusted her position in the cart, shaded her with a cloth, and encouraged her softly, "Stay strong, Zola. We will reach the hospital soon, and you will be well again." Even at night, the journey did not get easier. They stopped under a large tree to rest, and Emeka made a small fire to keep them warm. He cooked a simple meal over the flames, careful not to burn it, and made sure Zola had water to drink. She lay on a blanket he had brought, resting her head on his arm, and whispered, "I am so tired, Emeka." He stroked her hair gently and replied, "I know, my love. Just a little longer. We will get there, I promise." The days blended into one another. Some parts of the road were muddy and difficult, and the cart would sometimes get stuck. Emeka would not hesitate to lift the cart himself, pushing it with all his strength until it moved. Zola watched quietly, amazed at his determination. She had always known he loved her, but seeing him work tirelessly to get her to safety made her heart swell with gratitude. Along the way they met travelers and villagers from other places. Some offered small help, water, food, or advice about the road ahead. Emeka thanked everyone politely, refusing any unnecessary delay. Each step was calculated, each action careful, because he knew that time was critical. Zola's condition could worsen if they delayed. At one point, a heavy rainstorm struck. The roads turned into thick mud, and the cart sank into the earth. Emeka felt the weight of the cart, Zola inside, pressing down on his shoulders as he pushed and pulled. The rain soaked him to the skin, chilling him to the bone, but he did not stop. He wiped the water from Zola's face and covered her with a dry cloth, whispering, "We are almost there. Stay with me." Even when his own strength faltered, he found new energy from love. Zola, though weak, tried to help in small ways. She would hand him water or sometimes just hold his hand and give him the courage to continue. "I can see how much you care, Emeka," she said one evening, her voice trembling with emotion. "I do not know how I could ever thank you enough." Emeka smiled gently, feeling tears in his eyes. "You do not need to thank me, Zola. Love is not about thanks. It is about being there for each other. I would do anything for you always." Emeka thought about his brothers often during the journey. Obi and Tay had mocked him for caring so deeply, but now he realized they could never understand the depth of his devotion. Their lives were full of pride and ego, but Emeka's heart was guided by love. Every step, every sacrifice, every sleepless night was proof of that love. He did not need anyone else's approval, he only needed to ensure Zola's safety. One day, as they passed through a small town, Emeka needed to buy some medicine that the local doctor had suggested. He exchanged money carefully, making sure he had enough left for the journey ahead. Zola watched him, feeling a warmth in her heart she had never felt before. She saw the care in his eyes, the patience in his actions, and the quiet strength he carried. This was a man who loved her more than life itself, and nothing could shake his determination. The journey also tested Emeka's patience. People would sometimes ask for directions or try to sell things along the road. Each small delay could have frustrated him, but he remained calm. Every action was deliberate, every decision made with Zola's well-being in mind. Even when the road was steep and his muscles ached, he did not complain. He only focused on the goal, getting her the care she needed. At night, he often lay awake, thinking about their future. He worried about the cost of treatment, the challenges of the journey, and whether Zola would recover fully. Yet he never let fear control him. Instead, he thought about all the small joys they had shared, the laughter in the fields, the quiet evenings under the stars, and the dreams they had built together. Those memories gave him strength. They reminded him why he was making this journey, why he could not give up. The more Emeka walked, the more he realized that love required action. Words alone could not heal Zola, could not protect her from illness, and could not carry her safely to the hospital. Love was in the labor, in the sacrifice, in every step taken despite exhaustion. And Emeka's love was proving stronger than any obstacle on the path. By the third day of travel, Emeka was exhausted. His feet were sore, his hands blistered from gripping the cart, and his back ached from constant strain. Zola, too, was weak and she leaned heavily on him for support. Yet, in every hardship, Emeka found motivation. Each moment of struggle reminded him why he was doing this. He was not just moving along a road, he was carrying his wife's life in his hands. One evening, as the sun began to set, painting the sky with orange and purple hues, Emeka paused for a moment. He looked at Zola's face, pale but trusting, and felt a deep swell of emotion. Tears ran down his cheeks, but he did not let go of the cart or his resolve. "We are almost there," he whispered, his voice steady despite the tears. "Just a little more, Zola. Stay with me." She nodded weakly, holding onto his arm, her eyes reflecting both fear and trust. Emeka thought about the sacrifices he had made, the farm, the cart, the belongings he had treasured. None of it mattered now. What mattered was Zola's life, her comfort, and the promise he had made to himself to never let harm come to her. Each step forward was a declaration of love, a testament to the strength of the bond they shared. Along the way, they met a kind merchant who offered them food and shelter for the night. Emeka thanked him sincerely but refused any gifts of money or valuables. "We only need rest," he said politely. He wanted to continue the journey without delay. Zola ate a little, drank some water, and rested, feeling safer than she had in days. Emeka stayed awake most of the night, ensuring she slept peacefully, adjusting blankets and checking her condition regularly. By the fourth day, the hospital finally came into view. Emeka felt a surge of relief mixed with exhaustion. They had walked for days, faced storms, mud, and fatigue, yet here they were. Zola's eyes filled with tears of gratitude, and Emeka's heart swelled with emotion. He had done everything possible, given everything he had, and never wavered in his determination. When they finally entered the hospital, doctors and nurses quickly attended to Zola. Emeka stayed close, explaining her symptoms, her condition, and the steps already taken. Every detail mattered to him. He wanted the best care possible, and he would not settle for anything less. As the doctors began treatment, Emeka sat quietly, holding Zola's hand, feeling a mix of relief and hope. In that moment, he realized that true love was not measured by words, gifts, or even promises. It was measured by action, by sacrifice, by unwavering dedication in the face of difficulty. Emeka had shown that love was not easy, but it was worth every hardship. And in that quiet hospital room, he knew he had done everything a husband could do for the one he loved most. Even his brothers, if they could see him now, would be shocked. They could never imagine such devotion, such courage, or such selflessness. But Emeka did not need their approval. All that mattered was Zola's life, her health, and the bond they shared, a bond strengthened by every challenge, every step, and every sacrifice he had made along the way. When news of Emeka's extraordinary efforts reached the village, his brothers, Obi and Tay, could hardly believe what they heard. They had always mocked him for being soft, for caring too much about Zola, and for spending all his energy on her. Now they learned that he had sold his small farm, his tools, and even his treasured possessions to pay for her treatment. They were stunned. Obi rubbed his eyes and shook his head. Could he really do all that? He muttered to Tay. I thought he was weak, but this is something else. Tay, usually quick with words, was silent. He could not form a sentence that could match what Emeka had done. The brothers felt a strange mix of disbelief, shame, and amazement. They had never imagined that Emeka could be capable of such devotion. The village began to buzz with stories of Emeka's courage. People spoke quietly at first, then louder as the details spread. They talked about how he carried Zola on rough roads, walked for days without rest, and faced storms and obstacles with determination. They marveled at his patience, his endurance, and his willingness to sacrifice everything for the woman he loved. Even the elders, who were usually quiet and reserved, praised him. This is a man with a heart bigger than anyone else's, one elder said. Others nodded, agreeing that Emeka's actions were more than just devotion. They were an example for everyone to follow. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Emeka stayed by Zola's side constantly. The doctors were impressed not only with her treatment but also with the care Emeka had provided. Zola's condition began to improve steadily. Each day she gained a little more strength, her cheeks regained color, and her smile returned, albeit faintly at first. The transformation was not only physical but emotional. She had always known Emeka loved her, but seeing the lengths he had gone to, risking his own well-being and giving up everything for her, moved her beyond words. Zola held Emeka's hand one afternoon, tears streaming down her face. Emeka, she whispered, I cannot believe you did all this for me. You gave up everything, suffered so much, and still stayed strong for me. I do not know how to thank you. Emeka gently squeezed her hand. You do not need to thank me, Zola. You are my life. Seeing you well, happy, and safe is all I need. Everything I did was because I love you. Word eventually reached Obi and Tay that Zola was improving. They traveled quietly to the hospital, wanting to see the woman and the man they had mocked so harshly. When they entered the room and saw Emeka sitting beside Zola, holding her hand and guiding her gently as she took her first steps in days, they were stunned into silence. They had never witnessed such patience, care, or dedication. Obi swallowed hard. This is Emeka, he whispered. Tay could only nod, his eyes wide with disbelief. They watched quietly as Emeka adjusted Zola's blanket, offered her water, and encouraged her softly, his voice filled with love and tenderness. They had never imagined that the brother they had laughed at could show such strength. Emeka noticed them standing in the corner but did not stop caring for Zola. He continued as if nothing had changed, his focus entirely on her. The brothers felt a pang of guilt. They had judged him too quickly, ridiculed him for caring too deeply, and now they were faced with the truth of his character. It was impossible to deny that Emeka's love had no limits. The doctors came to speak with the family and explained that Zola's recovery was remarkable, largely due to the care and support Emeka had provided along with their treatment. Your husband's devotion played a big role in your healing, one doctor said kindly to Zola. She looked at Emeka, smiling through her tears. He has been with me through every step, every hardship, every moment of fear, she said softly. I owe my life to him. Obi and Tay could not hide their amazement. They had never imagined that love could be so strong, so active, and so enduring. The mocking words they had thrown at Emeka now felt foolish and small. They realized that Emeka had shown courage, patience, and strength that neither of them could ever imagine having. Their envy turned slowly into respect, though they were too shocked to speak immediately. Neighbors and friends from the village began to arrive at the hospital to see Zola and Emeka. Some brought small gifts, some came to offer prayers, and others came simply to witness the devotion firsthand. Every visitor praised Emeka, calling him a model of true love and selflessness. A man like him is rare, an elder said, shaking his head. He has given everything for the one he loves and he never faltered. Zola's health continued to improve steadily. She could now walk short distances without help and eat properly again. Emeka watched over her constantly, guiding her movements, encouraging her, and celebrating every small step. Her smile grew brighter each day, and the warmth in her eyes returned. Seeing her strong and healthy again filled Emeka's heart with indescribable joy. Even in these moments of happiness, Emeka's humility shone. He did not boast, he did not ask for praise, and he did not let the attention distract him from Zola's recovery. He focused entirely on her needs, her comfort, and her progress. People marveled at this quiet strength. While many would have sought recognition, Emeka's love required no applause, it was selfless and complete. Obi finally found the courage to speak, his voice low and filled with emotion. "Emeka, I cannot believe it. I mocked you and I was wrong. I never knew love could be like this." Tay added quietly, "Yes. I have never seen anything like it. You are amazing." Emeka looked at them calmly, not with anger but with gentle understanding. "I did what I had to do," he said softly. "Love is not easy, but when it is true, it shows itself in actions, not words. That is all." Zola, now stronger, held Emeka's hands and smiled warmly at her brothers-in-law. "I have seen his heart," she said, her voice filled with admiration. "He has given everything for me and I am alive because of him. I hope you understand now why he is the way he is." Obi and Tay nodded, their eyes reflecting both shame and newfound respect. They had learned a lesson they would never forget. True love is not something to mock, it is something to honor. The village, too, began to change its perception of Emeka. Where once they saw only a man devoted to his wife, they now saw a man of courage, patience, and extraordinary selflessness. Children whispered his name in awe, neighbors spoke of him with admiration, and even the elders used his story as an example of what true love and commitment looked like. Zola could now walk to the window and look outside, enjoying the fresh air and sunlight. Emeka stayed close by, guiding her gently, smiling softly whenever she paused to rest. The small gestures, the quiet conversations, and the shared moments of relief and happiness made both of them feel stronger than ever. Every step they took together was a victory, every laugh a celebration of survival and devotion. Even after she recovered fully, the story of Emeka's sacrifice and courage spread throughout the village and beyond. People would visit to see the couple, hear the story firsthand, and understand the power of love and sacrifice. Emeka's actions had inspired many, showing that devotion was not only about words but about tireless effort, patience, and putting someone else's needs above your own. Obi and Tay returned home that evening, their minds racing with thoughts. They had witnessed something extraordinary, something beyond their understanding, and it humbled them deeply. They had mocked Emeka for years, but now they knew the truth. Love was not measured by laughter or teasing. It was measured by action, by sacrifice, and by unwavering commitment. In the quiet of the evening, Emeka and Zola sat together by the hospital window, looking at the fading sun. The world outside was busy, noisy, and sometimes cruel, but inside, their hearts were calm and full. They had faced hardship together, and they had overcome it through love, patience, and determination. Every trial they endured had strengthened their bond, and now they could finally look ahead with hope and joy. Emeka held Zola's hand gently and whispered, "We made it, my love. We faced everything and now you are safe and well. I will always be here no matter what comes next." Zola smiled, leaning against him, feeling safe and cherished. She knew without doubt that Emeka's love was the greatest gift she had ever received, and nothing could ever change that. The village would remember this story for many years. The neighbors praised Emeka, telling others about the man with a heart bigger than anyone else's. Obi and Tay never forgot the lesson either. They learned that strength was not only in power or pride, but in patience, sacrifice, and unwavering love. And as for Zola and Emeka, their hearts were forever intertwined, stronger than ever before, built on a foundation of courage, devotion, and true love. Emeka and Zola returned to their small village after a long and difficult journey. The road home felt shorter than the road to the hospital, but it was not easy. Zola was now stronger, her steps steadier, and her smile brighter, yet she still needed Emeka's care. Every day along the way he stayed close, guiding her, helping her rest, and reminding her to take small breaks. She had regained her health, but she remained delicate after the long ordeal. Emeka did not mind. He had been through so much to see her safe, and helping her now was a joy, not a burden. When the village came into view, people gathered along the sides of the road. They had heard that Emeka and Zola were returning, and everyone was curious to see the couple. Friends, neighbors, and even strangers who had heard the story came to welcome them. Children ran ahead to wave, and elders nodded in respect. The air was filled with admiration, excitement, and curiosity. Emeka felt a quiet pride not for himself, but for the journey they had completed and the love they had shared through it all. Zola leaned on Emeka's shoulder as they walked slowly toward their home. She felt a mixture of relief and happiness. Her heart was full of gratitude for Emeka, who had sacrificed everything to save her life. She knew that words could never fully express what she felt. "I will never forget what you did for me," she whispered. Emeka smiled softly and replied, "You do not need to say it, Zola. Your life, your happiness, and your love are all I need." As they approached their house, Emeka's brothers, Obi and Tay, stood quietly outside. They had come to welcome them back but also to observe, still unsure how to react. They had witnessed Emeka's devotion at the hospital and had learned the truth about his character. Now, seeing him return home with Zola healthy and happy, they were struck by the depth of his courage and love. The mockery and teasing they had thrown at him in the past now felt foolish and empty. Obi stepped forward first. "Emeka," he began, his voice low and sincere, "I cannot believe all that you have done. We laughed at you, mocked you, and did not understand, but now I see the truth. You are a man unlike any other." Tay nodded, adding softly, "Yes, your actions, they have shown us what real love is. I have never seen anything like it." Emeka looked at them quietly with no anger, only understanding. "I did what I had to do," he said simply. "Love is not about jokes, words, or teasing. It is about sacrifice, loyalty, and being there when it matters most." The brothers fell silent, feeling the weight of their past behavior. They had never truly understood the meaning of devotion until now. Emeka had given everything he had, risked so much, and worked tirelessly to protect someone he loved. Their previous laughter and mockery seemed trivial compared to the courage he had shown. For the first time, Obi and Tay felt a deep sense of respect and admiration for their brother. The neighbors who had gathered around whispered among themselves, praising Emeka. "A man like him is rare," one said quietly. "He has shown the village what love truly is. It is not words or appearances, it is actions and sacrifice." Another added, "We can all learn from him. True care for someone is shown in deeds, not just in what you say." Even the children who had watched Emeka carry Zola were inspired by the example he had set. They talked excitedly about his courage, dreaming of the day they could care for their families in the same way. Zola, now fully aware of the impact Emeka's actions had on everyone, felt her heart swell with gratitude. She held his hand tightly as they entered their home. "I am alive because of you," she whispered. "Because of everything you have done, I have another chance to live, to love, and to be happy with you." Emeka smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "We are a team, Zola. Everything I did because we are together. Your life is precious to me." Inside the house, Emeka and Zola settled back into their daily routines. The small home, once quiet and simple, now felt warm with a renewed sense of life. Emeka worked on the farm again, but not with the same burden he had carried before. He was grateful for every moment, every crop, and every small success. Zola helped him when she could, but now with strength and vitality. Together they rebuilt their lives, slowly restoring what had been lost during her illness. The brothers watched silently over the next few days, learning from Emeka's example. Obi began to help his wife with small chores, understanding for the first time that true love meant effort and attention. Tay spent more time with his family, listening to his children and showing care in ways he had never thought important. Both had been inspired, not by words or lectures, but by witnessing the selfless devotion of their brother. Even the villagers continued to speak about Emeka's actions. They would tell visitors about the man who had given everything for his wife, teaching the value of loyalty, courage, and sacrifice. Young couples would ask for advice, and elders would share the story as a lesson in love. Emeka never sought praise, but he accepted the admiration quietly, knowing that the story could help others understand the meaning of true devotion. Emeka and Zola also took time to reflect on the journey they had shared. They would sit under the large tree near their home, watching the sun set over the fields, and talk quietly about the days they had endured. "It feels like a lifetime ago," Zola said softly, her hand in Emeka's. "But I remember everything, the pain, the fear, and how you never gave up." Emeka smiled gently. "I could never give up on you, Zola. Nothing was worth more than your life and our love." Their bond, already strong, had grown even deeper. Each shared experience, each hardship endured, and each act of care had strengthened the trust and understanding between them. They realized that true love was built not on ease or comfort, but on commitment, patience, and selflessness. They had lived that lesson together, and it had made their relationship unshakable. Obi and Tay began to approach Emeka and Zola with new respect. They asked questions about how they could care for their own families in the same way, and Emeka, with his quiet humility, offered advice. He spoke about listening, patience, and the importance of putting family first. He did not lecture. He simply shared what he had learned through experience. His brothers listened attentively, finally understanding that love required action, not just words. As weeks turned into months, life in the village returned to a peaceful rhythm. Emeka and Zola's farm grew again, small but fruitful. They laughed together, worked together, and enjoyed the simple pleasures of life. The story of the journey to the hospital and the sacrifices made became a tale often told around fires at night, a story to teach children and remind adults of what mattered most. Zola often looked at Emeka, her eyes filled with gratitude and love. "I will never forget what you did for me," she said, resting her head on his shoulder. "You gave me life again, not just in health, but in hope and happiness." Emeka kissed her forehead gently. "You are my heart, Zola. Everything I do for you. Your happiness is my happiness, your strength is my strength. That is all I need." Even the neighbors noticed the change in Obi and Tay. They no longer teased or mocked. Instead, they showed care and concern for their families, inspired by the example Emeka had set. The brothers had learned a lesson that no words could teach. Love, they realized, was about dedication, sacrifice, and being present when it mattered most. Emeka's actions had taught them what it meant to truly care for someone. The village slowly began to see a shift in values. People began to help one another more, care for their families, and show patience in difficult times. The story of Emeka and Zola became more than just a tale of a husband's devotion. It became a lesson for everyone, a model of how love should be lived. Children would watch couples, whispering about Emeka's courage, and adults would reflect on their own actions, inspired to be better, kinder, and more loving. Emeka and Zola continued to work together every day. They planted new crops, tended to the animals, and shared small joys. Each sunrise and sunset became a reminder of the journey they had taken, the obstacles they had overcome, and the strength of their bond. Their life was not filled with wealth or luxury, but it was rich with love, understanding, and gratitude. Obi and Tay sometimes helped them on the farm, still awkward at first but gradually learning how to put care into action. They realized that small efforts, consistency, and patience mattered more than grand gestures. Through observing Emeka, they understood that devotion was a lifestyle, not just a moment of heroism. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the sky turned shades of orange and pink, Emeka and Zola sat together on the porch. The air was calm, the birds sang their evening songs, and the village seemed at peace. Zola rested her head on Emeka's shoulder and whispered softly, "We have been through so much, but I feel safe with you. I feel loved in a way I cannot explain." Emeka smiled, holding her hand. "And I will always be here, Zola. No matter what comes, we will face it together." From that day on, the village held Emeka and Zola as an example of true love. Their story was told and retold, teaching lessons of loyalty, sacrifice, and courage. Obi and Tay never forgot the lesson either. They treated their own families with more care, never mocking or teasing, and always putting love into action. Emeka's life, though simple, had become extraordinary through the love he shared and the devotion he had shown. Zola's health, happiness, and gratitude were his reward, and the respect he gained from the village and even his own brothers was a testament to a life lived with love at the center. Every day, as Emeka and Zola walked through the fields, tended to their farm, and shared quiet moments together, they remembered the journey, the struggles, and the lessons they had learned. Their hearts were full, their bond unbreakable, and their lives a living lesson in what true love really meant. And so, Emeka's story ended not with wealth or fame, but with something far more valuable: a family that understood the meaning of devotion, a couple whose bond had grown stronger than ever, and a village inspired by the courage and love of a man who never gave up.